Hello.
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 Hi, how are you? Sound Australian.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. I've got a few people all entering at the same time right now.
No worries.
Okay, so if everyone can just put their phone on mute besides the panel and hosts that we have, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello, Amy.
Sorry,
Lee.
I'm just trying to put you in the world.
Your background there. Yes. Hello. Okay. Sorry, I'm just starting to let everybody into the meeting now. Okay, thank you for putting your phones on mute, everyone. Hello, Lee, how are you?
Hi, good.
Hi. I can't see a few people's faces, so I'm not sure if that's because they've turned off their videos, but we'd like to see your faces if we can for all the participants. Just to mute your phones if you can as you're joining. Thank you. Let me see. I think we've still got a few people joining, so. Oh, I see Candy's video. Hello, Candy.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. So I'm Philomena from IDCS, and I'm just doing a little bit of all the connections and IT to let you all in, and we'll be starting shortly once everyone's joined us. Okay. A few more people. But if you're not that shy, it would be lovely to see you on video. So if you can join us and show us your wonderful faces, that'd be great. Thank you. Lee, are you going to be the one that's actually joining for Bill, or will it be?
No, he'll be joining. I could never replace Bill. I normally just join because I learn so much when he speaks, and also if there's any technical issues, I can liaise.
Yes. Okay. No, that's.
Yes, I'll be a silent observer.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. I thought you were going to be maybe unable.
I got back in time. Yes, it's been a hectic day. I got back in time.
Fabulous. Okay. Okay. Actually, we've still got probably another good load of people to join us. So we are a bit early. So thank you for everyone for being prompt. And so far, so good, actually. Let me just see if I can see a few more people here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, some people are a bit shy. So we'll have to wait. I've probably got another double the number of people that are joining us, so might have to give them a little bit more time. Oh, hi, Asha. Finally get to see you.
I'm like in my pajamas. Hi. Well, I'm in Australia, like south of Sydney.
Oh, and, cool.
But I'm a big fan of the work, and I saw it through the DIA, so I wanted to join and have a look. But I'm literally in my pajamas drinking wine.
You won't tell anybody.
I thought that's why I was being shy.
It's not in
work hours.
I would be
also surprised. My daughter's with me as well, so we're both going to watch. So yeah, see, yeah, it's my my design assistant. Yes, yeah.
Wonderful. Keep it all in the family. That's what I say. So
yes,
we've got a fellow Australian here. And Lee, are you Australian as well?
Yes.
Candy, where are you joining us from?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm joining you guys from Taiwan.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. This is really exciting to see everyone. And Amy?
You were right.
Actually joining from
เปลี่ยนไมค์เป็นอันนี้ให้เธอเปลี่ยน
Okay, sorry, Amy, didn't quite catch you. Just
Oh, sorry. Hi everyone, Amy here. I'm actually joining from Holland, from the Netherlands.
so we've got a lot of people from all around the world. Okay. Cameron, the president of the Interior Design Confederation, he's joining us as well.
Oh, hi, Cameron.
Cameron, I'll ask you to unmute. If you can unmute your phone, that's great. Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Cameron.
Okay.
Hi, is that Lee?
Yeah.
Hi, Lee.
Did you
Good
think
to
I was
meet
a
you.
Chinese man?
No.
I get that a
but I
lot.
can see a very, very vivid and exotic illustration behind you.
Oh, yes, this is just something I whipped up. Yeah.
Good for you.
I'm clever like that.
I could do with somebody like you, Lee.
I can't draw to save myself. This is actually Bill's, this is going to be the Hilton in the Chinese, the human zoo. And this is
Yes.
based on an ant colony. Yes,
Okay.
very cool. Very cool.
Okay, it is cool. Yes. Okay, it's very fantastical.
Very
It's
Bill.
almost it's another J.K. Rowling masterpiece
Yes.
interpretation. Okay.
Hi, Anna.
Welcome, Anna.
We're
And-
not related. We just met yesterday on email and telephone. We haven't met yet, but we're not related.
Well, that's good. It
Ah.
looks like, you know, Anna, are you located in Australia, or where are you calling from? Oh, you're on mute. Let me just unmute you.
Oh.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah, I'm based in Singapore.
Oh, great. Okay, so we're well represented.
Yeah.
Is it also welcome? And is it Patam Wadi?
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
We're from Thailand.
Oh,
Sawadee
wonderful.
ka.
Yes, Sawadika. From the homeland for this webinar anyway. Yeah.
บ้านเกิดของอะไรอ่ะ
Yeah. So
To meet you guys.
yeah, we've still got probably let me see. Actually, quite a few more people are due to join us. So if we can give them a little bit more time, it's just that we are all a bit early. So thank you for those of you who've been very punctual. It's much appreciated. Lee, I'm also, Nikita, she is, haven't seen her join us yet. So maybe we can.
I don't know if she will. Actually,
Is it me?
Bill's office is what they call a dumb phone free zone. So Bill will be joining us. I'm not sure if Nikita will. They're doing some filming for another event.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if Nikita's joining, but Bill will be. I'm
Okay.
just looking at his icon now to see where he is.
Okay. Thank you. And Vanessa, we can't see you, Vanessa. I know it's a good, I just prefer to have it a little bit more intimate and we can, you know, converse and chat and just know where we're all from because, you know, we're all a group of, I guess, admirers of Bill's work. So it's nice to get to know each other all, you know, even though it's all virtual. So let me just see. I think I've still got probably another 10 more people that are due to join us as well. So apologies for any delays that we have. Are all of you familiar with Zoom?
Yep. We
Yeah.
live on it.
Yeah. So without it, I think we'd all be so bored. But having said that, we do have the chat function, which we hope you will be using today. So that if you have questions, we won't interrupt Bill through the course, but just, you know, to send through questions that you have. We can't promise to answer all of them because we might have a timing issue if the presentation runs over. However, we will do our best to follow up with Bill's office if need be after the call, and try to get back to
I can help you with that. If
That'd be
if you'd like to
fabulous,
send any questions through, I can help you with that. No problem.
Thank you so much. Glad we've got you here on the call. Okay, so Hadi, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Where are you calling in from? Can you hear me, Sahadi? Maybe not. Sorry. There's a few more people joining.
Yes.
Hi, I'm just wondering where you're joining us from. It's nice to have a fellow male. We've got quite a few females on the call. So are you calling in from which country?
Oh yeah, I'm calling in from Medan, Indonesia.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, we've got a real...
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Okay, the man we've been waiting for has just joined us.
Perfect.
Okay, let me see, make him a co-host. Let him. So I'm just giving him some authorization so that he can.
We need a drum roll.
I know. Okay, I'm just asking him to join us. That's Mr. Bill Bensley. Okay. And trying to unmute his phone, so hopefully he can do that. Hello, Bill. Are you able to join us? Can you see us? I can see the profile. Okay. We've got a few more people here that have actually just joined us as well. Okay. Now I'm asking. Bill, are you able to unmute your phone? Out of everyone, we need to hear him.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I'm WhatsApping them as well.
Okay. You mean,
Oh, Kumik?
Hello, Bill, can you hear me? Oh, okay, they might be trying to call back in. That's just dropped off.
Yeah, we had some issues with the call last night, so it may be if he's, I don't know if he's in the studio or at home.
Okay.
Just bear with me. I'm chatting on the other end to them.
Okay. So we have a few other people, Vanessa, Anna, Anastasia, AK, and Siu Yung. If you could show us your faces on video, but keep your phones on mute, that would be much appreciated. We'd just like to see everybody if we can, if that's okay with you. Hi, Vanessa. Anastasia, hi. Nice to see you.
I'm going to call him Philomena. I'm just going to mute myself so I can call him.
Okay, sure. Okay, for everyone, Lee's Bill Bensley's PR firm, so she represents him. So at the moment she's joining us and she's our main coordinator. So, okay.
Hello.
Oh, the man himself. Hello, Mr. Bensley. It's Philomena here from IDCS. And we've got a wonderful group of fellow designers and artists and creators who love your work and are very happy to be here to join you. And I wanted to introduce Amy and Cameron.
Hello, can you hear me?
Amy
Yes, we can.
is our treasurer from the Interior Design Confederation, and Cameron is our president from IDCS. And everyone, this is Mr. Bill Bensley. Okay.
Hi, Bill.
Hello, yes. Well, a warm welcome to everybody and to our IDCS Professional Development Program webinar, the first for this year, 2021. And I am very proud and delighted to welcome Bill Bensley, our Interior Designer of the Year. Some of you may not know me, I'm Cameron Wu. I'm tonight's host together with Amy, who will be my co-host, and we are both working with Interior Design Confederation of Singapore. So can I just ask everybody just a few things, please, to keep your Zoom on mute as Bill will be presenting tonight. And then we'll start with the questions that were put forward at registration time. And if we have time for questions, then we'll do that.
ผมมีประชุมนะครับต้องเรียกผมนะ God damn it.
No, we can hear you.
So as I was saying, we'll start with the registration questions. And then if we have time for any additional questions, Bill, I hope you can answer them. And tonight, Bill will be actually picking his favorite question and signing his book, Escapism, to give to tonight's best question in his opinion. So a warm welcome to you, Bill. Thank you very, very much for participating. And I would like to have you start, if you may.
Okay, super. Well, thank you for having me. We need to start this. Yeah, there's a deck we need to start.
You want to present?
Yeah, we're presenting.
You on,
Huh?
You on.
I know I'm on. I'm waiting for the presentation deck. Is that right, Cameron? That I'm waiting for the presentation deck, or am I supposed to look at these questions?
Hi, Bill. No, please start when you're ready with your presentation deck. We're all looking forward to it. And then we'll finish up with some questions that we've got ready for you.
I see. Okay, so just a moment. They're arranging that for me.
No problem. Well, in the meantime, as we're waiting for that.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
as we're waiting for that. As we're waiting for that, you know, it must be very difficult for you to go anywhere right now with the pandemic. So this is the new norm, which must frustrate you.
It sure does. It really does. Yeah. Yeah. It's not nearly as good as it being with somebody. But that's
of course. So have you found it very difficult to continue to communicate the way that you normally do, having to do it virtually or you know, by any other means?
You know, we've just finished the Capella in Hanoi, and it opened last week. And it is really frustrating not to be able to get there and feel the space and to move the books around, move the tables around, move the rugs around, move the, you know, move the flowers around. It's really,
yes.
It's really tough to be able to do those final touches by way of video. Last week I was on the video and we were in the I was trying to set up some things in the coffee shop in the all-day dining. And I was saying, okay, well, move that mannequin to the right, and it would go to the left. And then, okay, no, go to the other side, move it to the right, and it would go to the left again. It would just, and it was, it's insane, but it's just going to have to wait until I get there.
Well, you know, it sounds like as if you're absolutely hands on board, you know, with that curatorial eye, you know, and that's what's obviously evident in your work that we're going to see tonight. And I think we have your presentation up on screen now. Do you see it?
I do, yeah. I'm glad you do.
Okay. Well, I think we all do. So it's called Creatively Curious. So I think we're all very curious to hear what you've got to say. I'll hand it over to you when you're ready.
Okay. Say,
Okay, it's Philomena here, Bill. I've given you sharing access, but I noticed that you had some difficulty in sharing. So I've actually put your presentation on my laptop, and I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if that works if you can't share it from yours. So are you happy for me to continue showing your slides from my computer, or do you want me to stop sharing and you take the sharing control?
Yeah, you sure can, sure.
Just let me know.
You go ahead and go to the next slide, Philomena.
I think we can do it. Sorry, Philomena. What saved on here?
Is this the slide you want?
If you can go to the next slide, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. I think we can use it from here, but I saved it on the computer last week.
Ah, okay. You've got the sharing control. Great. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. I put together this slideshow, and sorry to take some time to get it up on, but it's hopefully it'll all be worth it by the time we're done. I was I was brought up in Southern California on a small farm where I grew up knowing I didn't know the word sustainability, but I grew up being able to supply all of our family's needs, food needs. We had ducks and chickens, and we had pigs and quails and bees and mushrooms, the normal type of mushrooms, and we grew up in a place where we had where we didn't have to buy anything from the grocery stores, practically nothing. And on the weekends that we would go and to go camping. So that idea of getting out into the wilderness every single weekend of my entire childhood gave me a very good understanding and feeling about how to respect Mother Nature. So I was very fortunate in that sense. In 1984, I moved to Singapore, and I had three very beautiful years there. And during that time, I became a Baliophile. And my classmate, Lek Bunak, who was also teaching at NUS, that I met at Harvard, he was very much a key to get me to come to Singapore and he actually told me where it was. I didn't know where it was when I was at Harvard. Then our very first job when I started out on my own in 1989 was my very first big job was the Four Seasons Hualalai, which is one hell of a big job. And I went head on head, and we competed against my old professor of EDI, Ecodine Austin Williams. And we created this beautiful place on Hawaii. And I have a funny story is that when I was there photographing with a very long lens, the landscape after it had been after it had been done, and there was a bald-headed, rather ugly man. They tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm taking pictures of the landscape." He says, "No, you're not. You're taking pictures of my wife." And I had no idea who this guy was, but he came back to me actually a couple of times, and it was this guy right here. Does anyone recognize that? Some Demi Moore and Bruce Willis. It was Bruce Willis tapping me on the shoulder, but I told him to go away, and he didn't. But nobody liked him in the resort. So that was my Hawaii experience. And then it continued. Then the rest is really history. We've done so many wonderful projects in India, the Leland, all the Raj villas, the Uday villas, the Amar villas, done projects in St. Kitts. This is the Hotel de la Paix in Siem Reap, or now it's the Park Hyatt. Many really cool projects. But again, I started out in landscape architecture, then moved to architecture, moved to interior design, and it's all been a very fruitful experience so far. Now, one of my very favorite projects in the entire world I want to tell you about is Shintamani Wild. That opened about 2 years ago. Maybe a little bit more, and I want to back up a bit. In that 7 years ago, my classmate, or not classmate, but my partner, Sukun Chanprida, we split this and we bought this beautiful piece of property, something like 1,400 hectares of land, and a river that runs through it, and waterfalls, et cetera, et cetera. We bought this huge piece of property. It was just part of the national forest. And we could do anything we want. We could do a titanium mine there. We could log everything. We could blow it all up. We could make condos. We could do anything. But not being a lumberjack, at least not in this life, I decided to make this very much a conservation project, which goes hand in hand with hospitality. So that was a very good move, I think. This is the way that you come into the property. It's a zip line that comes to a very tall tower here. And we have Southeast Asia's, one of Southeast Asia's longest zip lines. And then we can walk down here on a series of rope bridges, then we walk across this, then we zip line across this to a landing zone. That landing zone looks something like this. And then you're handed a big gin and tonic and a giant bucket of rum, whatever you like. And then you're taken to one of your tents. When these tents, there's only 15 of these tents on this huge piece of property. They're very, very high end, $2,500 a night, something like that, all inclusive. But I'm telling you that because that price point, even if you have only a few guests, that gives you enough money in order to be able to pay for a private army. Now, this is where it gets starting to get serious. This is our private army. They carry AK-47s. They carry guns. They carry everything they need to, because every single day they're enforcing Cambodian law and seizing snares, seizing dead animals. They're seizing live animals. They're seizing animals that are been captured and they're injured, and they're seizing chainsaws. And it's pretty darn gruesome what we find in the field. Just a few slides of last week. This was in a British newspaper. the London Tribune or something like that is one of the sexiest honeymoon suites in the world. So go through that. This is our bar, and 100% of the materials in this bar are recycled. They're pre-loved there. And I'm a big fan of not building anything new, or not trying not to make things if we don't have to. If I can find a client, and in this case, the client was myself, that to be able to buy antiques that have been around for a long time and to repurpose them. I find that much more sustainable. This is our headquarters, we call it. That's where everyone comes together and has a meal, usually together. Or we're out in the field and we can have meals out in the field, out in this beautiful place. So this is the real point of this is where hospitality and conservation comes together. And I think we're one of the few, certainly outside of Africa, we're one of the few hotels, if you will, in Asia that actually have done this successfully. Jason Friedman just told me just now that the niece of Hun Sen has just arrived by helicopter just in the last hour to this place, and it's become the honeymoon, the darling of Cambodia, and rich and famous. So they're keeping us alive during COVID. Touch wood, nah? Oops, I'm going to go back to this. The real reasons, the real reason that people come here is not necessarily because of the luxurious tents, which they are, the beautiful surroundings, but it's because we have adventure butlers, and those adventure butlers have menus that'll keep you busy for up to 10 days without seeing the same thing. So we've got boats that'll ply the backwaters where you don't see anybody. You see many kingfisher, beautiful kingfisher, because it's that part of the national forest is absolutely untouched around the estuaries. Then we can send people out to gather their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner, and gather everything from the forest and come back and eat that as a Cambodian person would. And then we can also send you out with the rangers, this personal army, if you will, and our guests will actually sometimes be part of seizing and confiscating materials like saws and chainsaws and etc. Now, completely different project. We have this is the Capella in Ubud, and well, just last month it won Travel and Leisure the best hotel in the world, and it amazes me that it was a reader's choice, and it amazes me that of all the hotels in the world, that the readers would choose a hotel that is, one, the hotel room is full of junk. I'll explain that. It's full of antiques. It's full of, it has no walls because it's just a canvas. It has no television, and it has no room service, but it's the #1 hotel in the world. Why is that? The vast majority of what we've done, of what we've used in here, all of these pieces, they're refurbished. All the beds are refurbished. Some of the fabrics and so forth are refurbished. We used antiques for the doors and windows and such. So that's a good thing. It's very sustainable in that way. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to this. When we started this project, it was meant to be an Accor property, 120 rooms, and the architecture that was handed to us, we didn't do the original architecture, was handed to us was a 120 room that would cascade down this mountain, and it would have obliterated everything. I said to the owner, Suito, really nice fella, can we talk about this a little bit? It doesn't really make sense to me. And he says, yeah, what do you have in mind? He says, well, let's do 20 tents instead, 25 tents instead. and let's get somebody like Capella to run it. And he says, okay, talk to me. I said, I have this idea about doing these tents that are all about what perhaps the way a Dutch person would have lived in the 18th century. Well, how would they have lived? So we did these tents, which are stepped very lightly over the landscape. And as you can see, we haven't cut down one tree. We haven't cut down anything, so that not even any grading at all. So the whole site remains purely intact. And what I love about this site for the most is that these tents, they don't do this. They don't do, hey, I'm here over here, look at me. They do this. They hide in the forest. That's what I'm most happy about. That they really they evaporate into the forest, and it's this is the ceiling of our main restaurant. It took us something like a year of local people doing these Klumkung style artwork. Love that part. And this right here, this is very important. If any of you guys are architects out there, remember this if you forget everything else. This is a hula skirt. And this skirt is the key ingredient to be able to take trees up through your architecture. Now, underneath this is alang-alang, and underneath that there's ijuk, and underneath that there's a plastic lining. But those three layers then allow the tree to move in a wind, but it also sheds the water, so that the water doesn't go down inside of the room below. The room below this is the presidential. The presidential has 5 different trees that are growing through the floor, through the bedroom, through the bathroom. And so when I do a project like this, I'm very adamant. It's not about just not cutting down the trees. It's also not moving the trees. So a lot of our work is about finding the right place to put architecture. And also the key is, don't make your architecture so big that it can't move between the trees. Remember the trees and Mother Nature was here long before we were. Give them priority. That's my goal. This is the place where everybody comes together for free cocktails at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. So that's a very important place. Everybody sees this place, but everything in here, every single thing in here is garnished, is collected from the junk shops of Canggu, Kerobokan, even some were up in Seminyak, and also Samarang in Java. So we found a lot of really neat items, and then recycled them, refurbished them, and whatnot. The signage is all done in our office in Bali, and we wanted to make it feel like the signage has been there for a long time. And even the swimming pool right here, it's a big tank of a ship that's been reused. So we didn't pour any concrete or anything there, so that was sort of a good thing. Next project I want to talk to you about is the Rosewood in Luang Prabang, and it's won Condé Nast Best Hotel in Asia, and it's a real favorite of mine because it's so darn small. It's about 25 rooms too. It has 5 tents that are up at the high portion of the site. They have great views out to the mountains, but they are representative of the 5 major hill tribes in Laos. Then we did out of the rest of the 19 rooms, we celebrated all of the various big personalities of Laos. And the French. This is our common areas, and what we built here was in a UNESCO site. I love working with UNESCO because it forces everybody to use the same architectural genre that's been developed there for hundreds of years. So that was a wonderful thing to be able to learn that new language of French colonial architecture. Here we took, in one of the bathrooms, we took the local idea of gold gilting and stenciling that they use very frequently in the temples into the bathroom and into the room itself, and it's fairly successful. In Laos, the textiles are fantastic, and so of course we use those. And then this is a view from the lobby looking out to our oval swimming pool. And so this is the bridge bar, we call it, where the elephants used to walk across the bridge when they were taking teak trees out of the local hills. And then this is an example of that stenciling I talked about in a little breezeway in the main room. Now, I want to say a little bit about my sensible, sustainable solutions. And this is a project that I've worked on for about a year now, and we're constantly revising. It's now in Chinese, and it's been adopted by hotel schools in China and in Europe and Switzerland, and also here in Thailand. And it's a 20-page synopsis of what I've learned in the last 30 years. And I had an idea about a year ago and I woke up and I thought, hey, maybe that could work. And I don't know if probably a lot of you know that when you get a new project from a hotel company, you're given a set of standards, a set of hotel standards that you need to follow. And you need to read that and understand what it's expected of you. Over the last 30 years or so, I've done something like 220 hotels. So I've got a stack full of these building standards. And I looked through them in the week after I had this idea, and very, very few of them have anything to do with sustainability. So I thought, well, what if we make this white paper that the hotel companies can insert, and they can insert into their building standards, and that would at least give some ideas to designers how to at least give them the benefit of my 30 years on how to make their projects more sustainable. So this paper is written for the owners. It's written for the owners and the hotel companies themselves and architects. And you can, if you have a phone, you can click on that, and then that'll give you an automatic download of that, if you like. Thank you. I'm on overdrive now.
Well, thank you very, very much for that, Bill. That was incredibly interesting. I'm just fascinated that on a hotel project that you've just featured in terms of Capella, that you've been able to actually procure all the FF&E locally, which actually makes it quite a challenge to actually find and repurpose everything to make it work, particularly at this level of hospitality. So you're really doing yourself, creating an additional and enormous challenge for yourself and your team, aren't you?
Well, I love junk, and I love shopping for junk. So, and to be able to create a silk purse out of a pig's ear, it makes me nothing. No, I can't. It makes me so happy to be able to do that.
So does that mean, Bill, that you're going out procuring this yourself, or to use another local term, shopping?
Yeah, you're not going to let
that yourself.
Have that fun. No, I have to do that myself. No.
Some of the questions to my co-host Amy, who will be asking some questions on behalf of some of our attendees tonight that they posed during registration. And if you could please answer to some of the questions. Amy?
Hi, Bill. Okay, so we had
a
from Shivani, and she was asking, how do you derive the local inspiration to create the sustainable? So, I think you spoke a little bit about that in the beginning, but have you got maybe then a different view on sustainability depending on the location? Have that changed with the project?
Not very clear at all. I didn't understand.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, not very well.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So she was asking about how you derive the local inspiration for your sustainable resorts. You touched a little bit in the beginning of your talk about your background and how you were raised and how that set the foundation for your love of nature. But do you have perhaps something different that you look at in terms of sustainability depending on what the site is? So in different locations?
Well, I think there's two different questions here. Is that where do I find the inspiration in order to make each project different, and how that responds to the site location? And if I answer that, then how is sustainability different from site to site? Is that kind of?
Yeah, that's I think sort of just building the what you're saying.
Well, I think that, and I think I touched about this on a little bit, is that on a very tightly wooded site, and also very steep sites that should remain steep and should remain tightly wooded. One of the great things that I've learned, and I would like to share with you, is that the building of bamboo houses. And that, it sounds really silly, but what we do, and we did this on the Capella U-boat too, is that we actually we built in bamboo the four corners and then the ridge line of every single tent, and so that we could make sure that it was in the right place. But that exercise took me on this particular project 9 different times to go to site, and we picked up these bamboo houses and then we moved them and we set them down again. And then we kept on building throughout the entire site so that we knew then that that they were going to fit between the trees, and if they didn't, where they were going to go through, so we could put hula skirts on them. And then as we worked up the site, then we could also see the sight lines, so that we made sure that each of the tents were not going to block one another. I do this on every project, but the Four Seasons in Koh Samui, which you might know, has many more. But I went to site something like 17 times and moved all these bamboo houses around the site in order to get them just in the right place. And I drove the surveyor nuts. But at the end of the day, it was cool. With this project right here, as far as inspiration is concerned, is that when I was given this project, I actually went to France 4 times, and I bought a whole series of antique books. I bought tons and tons of documents about even first edition copies of the 1776 French expedition up the Mekong, and I bought as many of the original etchings as possible, so that within this hotel there is something like 3,000 unique items that refer back to the history of Laos. And just by doing that, then I learned a lot about the history of Laos, so that I could take each one of those 25 rooms and celebrate each of those great characters, from the kings to the prime ministers to the environmentalists, to the conservationists, to the earliest photographers, to Mahout, the earliest explorers. And by that voracious eating of knowledge then translates very much into the way the hotel works, because all of the staff, they know that, have that knowledge too, and they can speak intelligently with the guests. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Thank you. Very interesting. She has another one as well. She would like to ask, would you look at help from IDs or interior designers from other countries, or create distant training sessions?
Would
So I
I?
think that's a two-part question as well. So do you work with, depending on where your sites are, so if you're in Cambodia, would you work with local IDs as well, or does everything come from your studios in Thailand and Bali?
In fact, there's on my website, there's a part called collaborations, and I think the people that we collaborate throughout the world really is very important. But we keep design work in-house. I've got about 120 people, and most of those people have been with me for 20 to 30 years. One of them has been with me since 1984. So we're a big family, and once somebody enters Bensley, very few people leave. But we do collaborate with lots of other artists and furniture makers and people that make our hotels go quack quack in the Bensley way.
Fantastic. Okay, and then the second part of the question was, would you create distant training sessions?
Haven't yet, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a training session too. We do a lot of these sort of projects.
Yeah, great.
Well, I think that's why we have it, right? I mean, that's why we have PDP, and we're very pleased to have you on board, Bill. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question that I'd like to ask, Bill. You know, in terms of referencing your presentation on Capella Ubud, how did you justify doing tents versus the initial idea of 120 units by the previous architect with quite an astute hotel owner?
Well, that's a good question. In that, how do we justify it?
That's right. I mean, is it the room rate? I mean, if it goes for $2,000 a night, and there are, I don't know, 80 tents versus 120 units at, you know, $1,000 a night. I mean, was it an economic decision by the owner, or what did you have to do to swing from branch to branch, so to speak, to get them on board?
Swing from branch to branch. I like that. That's very appropriate on this.
It is. I mean, it is quite a feat too. I mean, one thing is the theatrics, and the other point is that they need to make money. So, I mean, it boils down to dollars and cents at the end of the day.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. So, number one, we spent a lot less money. Number two, we now are at the highest room rate in all of Bali. We're north of $850 a night, which is great for Bali. And number three, he not only spent less money, he had a lot more fun because he selected us because of this idea of sustainability and being able to use junk and artwork. And he's a big artwork collector, and we both collect the same things. So he had a hell of a great time. And that's not going to be the last project that we do with Kunsuito. And then number four, it's #1 hotel in the world. So how good is that? And he spent a hell of a lot less money. So.
Okay. Well, you know, I mean, well, it keeps everybody happy. So you had some great solutions there. There is a question from one of our participants, from Anna Sutton, and I think you may have mentioned it in your presentation anyway. But she asked, which is your favorite project and why?
Oh God, who's my favorite child? I have to say Shintamani Wild, because it's really, how to say, my playground. It is a hotel, or a camp rather, that touches all of the buttons that I'm a big kid, and as I explained to you before, I love to be out in the wilderness. Every time that I have a few weeks off, I go up to Mongolia and I go fishing there, and I travel on foot, by camel, and by boat 300 to 400 kilometers. No cell phones, no nothing. So that's what really makes me tick. So a place out in the wilderness here in Southeast Asia has to be my favorite project.
Wow. Okay. Amy.
I have a question from Anas. What advice do you have for those of us who'd like to get a foot in the door in the world of in the world of design for accommodation?
I think to get a foot in the door, there's several things. Okay. Don't be safe. If you've got a project, push it. Push it to be as out there as possible. Use every opportunity that you can in order to push the boundaries and to be as creative as you can. Number two, photograph the hell out of it. Once you do get it, once you do, and then use all means of how to say social media as you possibly can, and then talk about it with your friends, talk about it. So I think that's my best advice, is to do something unusual and talk about it. There was what was it called? Oh, that's what it was. It was called The Valley of the Dolls. It's an old, very old book. It was made in the 1940s. And I'll tell you a story, is that The Valley of the Dolls became a million plus, or they sold millions of books in the 1940s in America. And the New York Times had just begun their best published list, or the most popular book list, or whatever. And then that gal told the writer, they only survey 6 bookstores in New York, and then the book that sells the most books gets on the top of this list. So what did she do? She went out and bought all of her own books. And she cleared the shelves of all of her books, and then they put the books back on the shelf. She went back and cleared them all. Within 6 months, her book was right at the very top of the list, and then she had no problem selling it. So my point is that when you're starting out, quack.
Great, thank you.
We have a question from Tash Russell. And the question is, Bill, how do you and your team curate a story for each concept?
It's a lot of research. We just finished about a year and a half ago now a project. It's an M gallery in Sapa, northern Vietnam. And the concept was really quite strange in that it was the whole hotel is about the study of how the hill tribes of northern Vietnam actually affected, or how it influenced the haute couture fashions that were happening at the turn of the century in Paris. So that was one, involved a lot of shopping in Paris, which is always fun. But it also involved a lot of understanding of what the fashion houses were and what they were doing, and also what was actually happening in the hill tribes, which not that much different than today. But that was it. And then there was also some papers written about that. So I read those and built an entire project on a very simple concept. So, you can get an entire hotel out of one rose if you look at it carefully enough. That's my point.
And she also asks another question. With your approach to sustainable design, how has that impacted cost of a project? And I think you addressed that during your presentation, but when I look at it, I can understand in terms of, you know, the capital expenditure being less if, for instance, you found objects. In terms of time and everything else with you, doing 17 different site configurations of every tent. I mean, does that add to the timeline? Does that matter? I mean, does one expense all of that, you know, in terms of the cost of the project, in terms of time and budget? I mean, how does that work? Because, you know, it's a much talked about subject here, Bill, in terms of, you know, achieving sustainability, but at what cost? So I think that was a really good question from Tash.
I agree. It's a very good question. When I was in Singapore and Hong Kong, I worked for an American company, American landscape architecture company, that kept timesheets. And I think that's probably the way a lot of design firms still work. When I opened up my own office in 1989, I said, timesheets, forget it. We're not going to do those anymore. And we decided to take every single project, the best possible, and give it as much time as we wanted. Because I got very frustrated working with that American company, because I'd get halfway through a project, then they'd pull the rug out from me and say, stop, you can't do it anymore. We're out of budget. And I think that's the wrong way for designers to work, is that I think we should, as designers, we should give it our all, no matter what the bottom line is. So whenever I'm shopping for an item, say this glass, I buy it for 10 cents, I give it to my client for 10 cents. So that there's no ulterior motives. When I'm buying junk in a junk shop, if I buy something or whatever, it all goes without profit directly to the client. And if I need to spend more time on it, then I spend more time on it. And so my clients have, over the years, have really appreciated that sense of responsibility and honesty, and that's gotten us some really good projects, I think.
Well, I think that's a fantastic insight that we can all take away from, because I think it's very much the opposite about what a lot of practitioners are practicing today. You know, because there is that big question about, you know, the economics of a business in design versus the creativity, which always runs, you know, how long is a piece of string? And I suppose the last question that she asked, because I think you're such, you know, so admired by her, is, do you offer internships?
No, yeah, sometimes, but mostly that's for Thai kids, and sometimes we have some young Indonesian come down to our Bali office, but for the most part, no.
Okay, Amy. Sorry, Amy, can you unmute?
Sorry. So I have a question from Candy. What advice would you give for a retail interior designer hoping to transfer into hospitality design? And what kind of transferable skills must he or she have?
You know, there's, how to say this? You know, I started out as a gardener. Then I worked into a landscape architecture, worked into architecture, then I worked in interior design. And the difference between retail design and hospitality design is that much. I mean, it's so little, it's so, how to say, my advice is don't materials and how people use space, and you're already a successful retail designer, then think of it as like piece of cake, baby, let me have it.
That's great, thank you.
And Vanessa Wijaya asks, Mr. Bensley, you've created quite a career for yourself. What is your own personal philosophy? I think we can see that in Chintamani Wild, but can you elaborate on that a bit more, please?
My personal philosophy is that if it's no fun, don't do it. Number one, you've got to have a good time doing something, or otherwise you're not going to do it very well. And if you can do something and have fun, and then help conservation, help animals, help people along the way, even better, right? So that's my personal philosophy.
Can I just add to that and ask you, Bill, I'm sure you've got antenna, in terms of people antenna. Is there sort of like clients that you've felt the antenna is not quite right and you've said, maybe another time, I'm
Sure.
a bit busy right now?
Absolutely, yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. You've got
may I ask, is there more of them than some of them?
No, not anymore. It used to be, and now I have somewhat of a track record. So the people that come to me now understand the way I quack, the way I think, the way I swing from tree to tree. So it's a lot easier now. There's this greater understanding of let's get on the boat and let's take this somewhere unusual. And that's most of my clients now, that they appreciate that, and I'm very blessed.
We have another question from Asha, and she asks, most recently you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation about the opening of the hotel in Hanoi, the Capella Hanoi. Could you tell us a little bit more about your experience in working in Vietnam and how you balance authenticity with what tourists expect and experience versus, what locals experience?
That's a good question in that. And we often, as hoteliers, we try to second guess what our guests, our customers are going to like. And for better or for worse, I've decided that there's no point in guessing. I think it's important. It's important to, let's say this. It's kind of, now I'm painting a lot. I don't know if I told you this, but I'm painting a great deal these days. And I'm painting large scale, 2 meters by 2 meters paintings and so forth. But what I really enjoy about painting is that, and this may sound rough, but I don't give a damn what other people think about it. Right? And in the same way, that's how I look at doing a hotel, is that if I listen to every single person about what it is that should go in that particular hotel, then and if I take out everything that somebody doesn't like, then we'll make a hotel that nobody can dislike, but a hotel that nobody likes. And in this day and age, it's very important to do hospitality, not for everybody, but for I hate to say, but for myself and for like-minded people. Does that make sense?
Well, it would make better sense if, for instance, I asked you this, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from your own hotel, which hotel have you stayed in that you loved and why?
Oh, many. I generally like very small lodges, small places like Hooker Lodge in New Zealand, like Hoishinoya in Kyoto, like I'm drawing a blank. A Mambo camp in Africa, in Botswana. Those are my top 3.
Wow, so they're far-flung places, in Botswana, in New Zealand, and perhaps we can add that into our little black book, that we're going to distribute to our participants that have actually, listened to you tonight. Because you know what? I think that's the start of a gem of an idea where we're going to talk to everybody like yourself, and we're going to get their top 3 tips on where they stay, where they eat, where they shop. And I think that can be a really, really good collaborative idea for IDCS aficionados and part of the PDP program, because I think everyone would like to know who and where you eat with, dine with, shop at, sleep at, you know, whatever it is, you know, and I think that would be great to share. Amy, I know that Amy is a great fan of yours. So Amy, you know, this is a special time for her right now. Amy, is there anything in particular that you'd love to ask Bill for yourself?
Yeah, I do have one question actually. So we've spoken a lot about the sustainability and reusing items, and I love the idea of upcycling, going to antique places, using all of this. I think it's incredible. You obviously have you've built that level of trust with your clients where you can kind of sell them that idea. What would you, or how would you help somebody starting out trying to, again, convince their clients that they should trust in these ideas? Or is it just taking it sort of small and step by step, slowly adding these things in and growing it over time?
Well, you know what is that we know now with the surveys that are done all the time, but the surveys are telling us that people are making decisions, and certainly after COVID, people are making decisions based on where they stay, based on the social or environmental responsibility, the level of the social responsibility that the hotel is taking. So the more vocal that the hotels are about what they're doing, or then the more successful they will be. So as a beginner, pull that out of your hat. Pull that, you know, and again, you know, like Cameron says all the time, is that it's all about the ball, it's all about the money, it's all about the dollar. And if you can prove to your client, even though you don't have much of a track record in it, you can prove to the client that that's going to make them more money, and it will, yeah. then use that argument.
Sell them the story so that they can sell the story.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
How often do you actually use props in your presentation? Because you've obviously found these objects that you've wanting to procure or sort of provide, or, I mean, do you sort of like come in with a collection and curate it in front of the client and say, can you see this? This is where it's going to be.
That's a great question. In that, you know, in my office here in Bangkok, just upstairs, I've got a 200 square meter go down, and it probably has 1,500 items in there. Some of them have been there for a while. Some of them are just fresh off the boat. And I said, we'll walk around there and we'll say, well, let's use this, let's use that, let's use this one. And they have the benefit of my shopping, but it's already here in Bangkok, and they get it at cost price. So do I use a lot of props? Yeah, about 1,500 at a time.
Okay, all right. Very interesting. Okay, you know, I think we can have one or two more questions. Philomena asks, how much of the design is in your canvas? Is it the concept design stages or detailing stages?
How much design in my canvas? What do you mean?
Well, perhaps if Philomena could elaborate. If you can unmute, please.
Okay. Sorry, this is a question from Shivani. So I'm not sure, is Shivani, are you on the call?
Hi.
Yeah.
I can speak here. So, you know, what I was wanting to know is, I mean, when I say a canvas, of course, it's like you said, it's a painting board literally, which is your representation of your design. So is your involvement there as a principal designer, where for each and every project, the concept comes from you and then gets translated by your designers? Or is it a collaborative, not such a fixed kind of an approach for each project?
It's never fixed. Yeah, it's never fixed. And the way I operate the office here, the studio, is that there's no bad ideas. So everybody can everyone's welcome to add whatever they feel is good. And I'm the guy that stirs the cake and decide which ideas get presented to the clients.
Understood. So more of a collaborative
Yeah.
entire design process.
Yeah, it's not a dictatorship here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and when I go and look at somebody's work, for example, I will always say, gosh, I love this part. And this is fantastic down here. And gosh, you did a wonderful job with that. But maybe we should look at this corner over here. Maybe we should tweak that a bit. So it's all about positive reinforcement for designers, because everybody loves positive reinforcement. And then it's positive reinforcement 4 times, and then criticism. And then they tell them what really needs to happen.
Bill, if I can just go back to what you were saying, that you repurpose everything in your hotels with your props, including fabrics. Now, this is for the FF&E textile designers out there. We've all been through the process of working with hotel operators with their brand standards on the that all seems to go out the window when you say, let's repurpose these fabrics. Now, is it just for artwork, or or is that including for upholstery? I'm just interested in knowing, because designers go through a lot of trouble in convincing clients on different textiles selections for durability and washability, going through central wash, flammability, etc. And you make it sound so incredibly simple and easy when you say, let's just repurpose this fabric that I found.
Well, I think that practicality is paramount. If you put something on a sofa that's going to be, has 10,000 rubs in the first year, you've got to let it last. What I was referring to, I want to come back to this slide right in here, is that these fabrics in here, in partiality or refurbished, or they're older collections of boutiques and such that we had found, and they are in, in positions where they're not in high use. They're not in, so it's the linings of the tents, etc. that can, a simple cotton fabric, and it's a boutique, can withstand that. As an aside, right now I'm doing a hotel in Jakarta, which is not open yet, and it should be open in 6 months or so, but it's all about boutiques. So 100% is about, and so I purchased something like 500 or more cloths that are anywhere from vintage to antique, and they're becoming the linings of the wall. And they're becoming artwork. The backgrounds are becoming parts of frames to do other pictures. So all those things that are not necessarily upholstery, that are not necessarily rubbed all the time. So that's how.
Right. Well, Bill, I suppose, sadly, we have come towards the end of our webinar, and I wanted to basically ask you if there's any particular question that you liked that stood out for you, tonight or this afternoon, rather, that you felt was well deserving of your book, Escapism. If, for instance, you already know, then let us know. If not, then of course you can deliberate over that. But either way, as I mentioned to everybody at the beginning of this presentation and webinar, that there will be an attendee lucky enough to actually be able to go home with Bill's book called Escapism, which looks fabulous, based on the question that he likes the best today.
The question that I like the best is that how do you get your foot in the door? And I think Anna said that, and that was a good one. I think probably a lot of people benefited from that.
Okay.
Well done, Anis. You are, yes, you will be the recipient of Bill's fabulous book, Escapism. And you know, we will be in touch with you, you know, after the webinar today or tomorrow, to actually organize that with Bill's office. Bill, I wanted to very much thank you on behalf of IDCS and also all the participants tonight and this afternoon, depending on where you are, of course, for making the time as our IDCS Interior Designer of the Year. Congratulations again for your time today to share with us your work, your inspirations, your experience and your insights. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Another time again.
Thanks
All right.
so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. For those of you who are still on the call, I will send out a copy of the presentation because although I sent it at the very beginning of the call, obviously the you know, the connections are making it you know, takes quite a long time to send it through. So I will email it to each of you as I have all of your emails, Bill's presentation. And if you have any other questions that you would like to Bill to answer, please forward them to me and I'll send them through to Lee and we'll get a response for you. But thank you everyone for participating and hopefully you'll be able to join some more webinars of ours in future. Thank you. Good night. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.